Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We are, today is May 12th. Last night, Israel was going through its own hardships, and whenever we find people in pain anywhere around the world, we need to be paying attention and be as sensitive as we can. It's unfortunate what's going on over there. My prayers go out to the people of Israel and to our brethren and sisters and our IDF units, our soldiers on the ground who are trying their best to bring shalom, peace, without causing any harm. I know that that's their code, that's their ethic, and that's why I'm so proud of everything about Israel. Now, today's coffee talk is about spirituality and growth, which I think is a important conversation to have during these times. You see, we often make the one second. Oh, I'm recording. We often make the mistake in thinking that well, I'm a good person because I'm not involved in doing anything wrong. I'm not doing any bad, and therefore good is defined as me avoiding doing evil. This is a mistake. That doesn't make you good. It doesn't make you bad either. It just makes you ambivalent. And I think that when we think of the Jewish definition of good, we have to be mindful that in Judaism, to be good means to be proactively working on becoming good, recognizing that even though I am at my core, I try to do what's right. Ultimately, it's about my desire to proactively figure out a way of how I can become something bigger and better. That is the Jewish vision of good. This is what we mean when we say Mamlechet Kohanim. This is what it means to be a Kedoshim Tihiyu, the idea of being holy. Holiness means proactively being better, proactively working on being good. So what's interesting is that, the summer months often isn't a time that we associate with our spiritual development. The summertime is a time where we, like to chill. We like to shoot the breeze. We want to do all kinds of things. We want to get out. We are naturally, we are social animals. We see the beauty, the benefit of us going and enjoying the world that we live in. And we're meant to enjoy those things. B'chavod, enjoy it. But not at the expense of asking the most fundamental of questions. And that is, how do I use this time of growth? Remember that in Judaism, the physical world is an expression of everything that's happening in the spiritual planes. And therefore, if there is more light in the world during the summer, that means there's more holiness in the world during the summer. There's more darkness in the world in the winter. There's more impurity in the world during the winter, which is the way it is. There's less growth in the wintertime, which means there's less growth happening in me during the wintertime. More growth happens in the summer. That means there's more growth happening in the summer for me. So I can tap into all of these amazing potentials and powers that we're surrounded with. But I can't actualize any of it if I don't have a POA. That's right, a POA. What's a POA? Plan of action. Everyone needs to have a POA, a plan of action. Without a plan of action, you're going to find yourself in trouble. What is the vision? Think about it. We just spent, 45 days preparing for Shavuot. We had Passover, talking about this idea of freedom. What are the things that keep us a slave? It's about our attitude. It's about our own vision of ourselves. It's about how we perceive our own reality. It's the mindset we use. That's what slave mentality is. But we're supposed to break free from that. The idea of being b'nei chorin, of people that are truly free. The way in which we're able to achieve that freedom is by recognizing that we have the power to choose. The power to choose means choosing between one thing and the other. So I have a vision of, I should have a vision of what it means to be the best version of me. I should have a understanding of what it means to move from where I am to becoming something more. And that choice, that I am not stuck, that I am not forever on a loop, that my emotions, my My habits do not define who I am, that I can break free and become something bigger and better. That's what this time is about. And it happens right during this time of the year as we begin the summer. So we know the holiday Shavuot, which is happening on Sunday night and Monday night, is a holiday of the Jewish people receiving the Torah. Okay, so what are we celebrating? Usually when you think of a celebration, you're thinking of a victory. We won something, we overcame something. And the celebration over here is receiving a bunch of laws. That's what we're partying about, Law Day, that we got laws. What are we celebrating? And I think ultimately what we're celebrating is this idea that we have the power of using a system for growth. Now, most people, when I speak to young people, I talk to them about the laws, the commandments, the mitzvot, the things that we got to do. Oh my gosh, those things, they're so restrictive. Why can't I wear whatever I want? Why can't I eat whatever I want? Why can't I go wherever I want? Now, if you're a parent, you understand intuitively that if you gave everything that your child asked for, you would be destroying that kid. You give a kid everything he or she wants, you've destroyed that kid. And part of what it means to be a dad or a mom is to create boundaries for your children, to help them recognize that sometimes you got to pass off immediate pleasure for hard work and so on and so forth. This is understood. We understand that. Now, what's the difference between us and our kids? Meaning our kids are lucky they have hopefully parents who create those boundaries. Who sets those boundaries for adults? Who creates the proper boundaries that enable, dads and moms to become somewhat balanced and not be individuals that are driven by their emotion, lusts, wants, and needs, and so on and so forth? It's a good question. And certainly it's an important question to ask, because I'm going to argue that if we don't have an outside system that's coming down and telling us who we can become, what we can do, what we ought to do, we're going to get ourselves into trouble. And we're no different in that way from a child. The Torah is there to help create the boundaries that we need so that we could live a life of balance, so we could live a life of greatness, so we could live a life where we're able to express the best of ourselves into the world. We don't just lean on our natural talents and just kind of get by, but instead we persevere through pushing beyond the challenge that we have, and in that place we become more. This is what I believe Shavuot is about. Shavuot is the day where we are celebrating our choices to become better. It's about the boundaries that were given to us, the laws, if you will, that were given to us that enable us to become something much more profound. I believe in this way, we're able to express the uniqueness of this holiday. So we know that Shavuot is a day where, if you look in the Torah itself, it's very hard to find what date this holiday is. So the Torah just says, Uspatim lachem, you should count for yourself 49 days from the second night of Pesach until this holiday called Shavuot, and that's it. We have no idea. The Torah does not say that on the 6th day of Sivan, you should celebrate this thing called National Torah Day. No celebration of it whatsoever. And the question is why? Why is the Torah silent when it comes to this unique holiday? Every other holiday expresses itself very clearly. Every other holiday, we know exactly when it is, but here you don't know. And then you have different names for it. It's called Chag HaKatzir, right? It's the harvest, ceremony holiday. It's the Chag HaShavuot, the holiday of weeks. But why not Chag HaMatan Torah? Why not just be very clear about what this day is? And I think this concept is a profound one. Okay, you see, in life, there are things that are obvious, that are external, and then there are things that are not so obvious, that require a tremendous amount of digging. You got to be able to go dig deep down inside the earth to pull out those rare, materials so that you could make yourself a living. The same is true over here with the Torah itself. The Torah is telling you like this. I'm not going to tell you when this day is for a couple of reasons. One is that I don't want you to think that National Torah Day, a day where we talk about achieving human perfection and excellence and greatness, is just defined and confined to one day, but rather it is a day that is can be established and celebrated every single day, that we have the power within us to achieve this kind of greatness every day, that I don't need to be limited to one day a year. We're talking about human excellence. Every day is Human Excellence Day. Number two is that I want you to think. The Torah is not a book of just believing what your dad said. It's not a religion that's just based on faith. It doesn't not. It's good to have emunah. You're supposed to have this concept of faith, but it's your belief doesn't rest on this faith. Your belief is meant to rest on knowledge. Veda. You're supposed to know that this stuff is true. You're supposed to move yourself out of a place of an emotional, relationship to your beliefs and move it into a cerebral one. If it's not cerebral, I mean, look what's going on in the world today. I was listening to a YouTube clip someone sent me this morning of a guy named Trevor Noah, who's like a popular, TV host. He runs something called The Daily Show, and he's trying to talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And he said something that completely blew my mind. First, I thought he was going to try to be as balanced and fair as he possibly could be. And what ends up happening, he says, I realized you can't talk about who started this fight because it started so long ago. But, the way in which I look at these things now is how many people died. Since more Palestinians died, and since Israel has the ability of decimating the Palestinians, and the fact that they are causing death and harm, they're responsible, right? Which is completely twisted logic, right? He said, as far as, it's like in America. He's like, it's not fair when someone brings a knife to a fight and a police officer has a gun. This is what he said. He says, he brought a knife to a gunfight. It's not fair. And therefore, if the cop shoots that guy with the knife, it's the cop's fault because it wasn't a fair fight. Who says that fights are supposed to be fair, right? The reason why you want to have police with maximum force is, one, protect the police officers, and two, to make sure that the guy doesn't pull out the knife. You don't pull out a knife in a gunfight. You're right. So now we're saying that the logic is because this guy's dumb for bringing the knife out, that this police officer should be unarmed. Where's the logic there? It's just again, like, this kind of thinking comes from a deep emotional place. And I understand it. It's pain. Who wants to see people on any side dying? I don't want to see anyone dying. I don't want to hear about young kids dying either. It doesn't matter if they have a gun, who started. You're right. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. A life's a life. And we have to do everything in our power to save lives. But at the end of the day, someone's got to take responsibility. Why is this guy starting? Why is this guy provoking this big beast that could easily squat it down in a second? Israel is showing restraint. And the proof is that only 29 people died. If they wanted to, it could have been 1 million people in a few minutes. Now, again, I don't believe that we should, ever use full force. Ideally, we should try to create peace. But in order to create peace, you need to have strength. This is what King David says. Hashem oz la'amo yiten, Hashem yivarech et amo ba'shalom. God first gives strength, and with strength, you have peace. You don't have peace if your aggressor thinks he could overpower you. Why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because if we live in a world where we're no longer thinking and all we are is defined by our emotions, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. If we have elected officials who are not thinking about becoming good, they're just avoiding doing bad, we're in trouble. What made America a great country, I'll even say, which pains me to say it, is it was a country that was striving for personal excellence. And understood that, this work ethic of working hard, of overcoming, of using your mind and becoming bigger and more. And once those things are gone here, and you allow yourselves to be run by your emotion, what you've really just done is given the keys to children to run one of the most powerful countries in the world, which is dangerous. It's irresponsible. And we're going to see how so much of this irresponsible behavior is going to trickle down into our everyday lives. The summertime is a time of where we're supposed to grow. It's a time where we're supposed to bring peace into the world. How do I know? Most wars begin in the summertime. Remember, anything that has the ability to do one thing has to have the ability to do the exact opposite. So, what is this time about? The summertime is about having fun. It's about having all your needs being met. There's abundance of food and there's beautiful weather, and you're going out to the world and you're doing great things. Amazing. Enjoy everything the world has to offer, but not at the expense of being apathetic, not at the expense about being ambivalent. The summertime is a time for growth. The summertime is a time for personal development. It's a time to read a new book. It's a time to ask yourselves, oh my gosh, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are coming up in a few more months. Am I going to be ready? It's going to happen. Do I want to be asking for those achets again? Am I ready? Do I want to do that? This is the time to be creating that plan, to ask yourselves to grow. It's true for yourselves. It's true for your families. Don't allow your family, don't allow yourself to get away with just being status quo. To me, status quo is bad. Good means I am proactively working on being good, proactively working on bringing Tov to the world. So how do you do it? Very simple. Okay, it's always simple. It's simple as an unfair word. It's hard because it requires effort on your part. But very simple. You need to have two things. One is you need to have an imagination. You need to have clarity, a vision of who you are and who you can be, and then a working plan to get there. You can't do it by yourself, not a problem. There's something called mentors, something called rabbis, something called coaches. Get yourself one. Every single person, even I, have people that I speak to about my own challenges in my relationships, with my wife, with my children, with the people that I lead and so on and so forth. I need to go ahead and have someone that I'm working on. How can I go ahead and give other people advice if if I'm not willing to take advice from other people? I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. But what I am working on is becoming better. And that's what I expect from the people around me. Just like I am working on becoming better, I expect that you guys should also want to become better. This is how we bring shalom into the world. We're never going to have complete peace. Just like in a relationship between husband and wife, there'll never be complete peace. There's always going to be some kind of drama, which is fine. We're meant to go ahead and deal with the drama and deal with it in a respectful way. But ultimately, what we're striving for is peace, and that peace has to come from love. I believe that this is how we engage during this time. Don't waste the summer months in just sitting outside and enjoying the sun on your skin and walking in the light. Use the summer as a time to imagine the best version of you and then come up with a plan to actualize it. That is how we grow as spiritual beings. We enjoy the material. We enjoy everything that the world has to offer in the summer. Go swimming, go on rides, go on hikes, go on vacations, have fun, but never at the expense of losing that sense of self, never at the expense of losing a vision of you becoming bigger and better. This is the time to do it. You can't do it in the winter. The winter time is a time to prepare for it. Shavuot is the last big crunch between Pesach and Shavuot. We're working, so we can actualize this better, bigger version of ourselves until we get to the 3 weeks. Right? What do we do in the 3 weeks? Right? You have Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. When we saw those pictures a couple of nights ago of the fire over Har HaBayit, I was like mixed emotions about it. Like imagining what it would be like to be there 2,000 years ago when watching the Romans burn down our temple. But at the same time, recognizing that sometimes you have to burn things down to build new things and start over. But this time of the year, Shavuot, after Shavuot, as we approach, Tammuz and Av, Chodesh Av, is a time of descent. And the reason that our Chachamim tell us that we got into that descent is because of a lack of Ben Adam Lechavero, a lack of my ability to appreciate the nuances of the people around me. Now, what does that indicate, right? That tells me that if I can't appreciate the people around me, it means I haven't spent time working on myself. That's what this is about. Shavuot is the holiday that's like raises the banner. We're on top of Mount Sinai. You got the light show. You got the Torah. You got the tablets. You got everything happening for you to wake you up and say, hey, the summertime is here. It's time to grow. What are you doing about it? How are you going to get there? And if you don't actualize it, you know what ends up happening? Unfortunately, our relationships break down, because the first relationship we need to go ahead and shore up and strengthen and fix is not the relationships around me. It's always the relationship right here with me and myself. Remember, the placest that you are weakest is the place where your relationships struggle the most. The places that you are strongest is the places your relationships thrive the most. So use this time of spiritual light and outer beauty to reflect a little bit about what we can do to shore up those weaknesses. You don't have to be perfect. A little bit over here, a little bit over there. We're made up of little things. The tallest mountains are made up of the smallest grains of salt, of sand, right? The biggest stars are made up of the tiny little molecules called hydrogen, right? You have a universe that's made up of small things. Small things make big things. The way we change, the way we grow, is by making small changes. Don't allow the summer to be a time where you throw everything out. Have a vision, create a strategy, speak to someone, get yourselves clarity, and you'll see yourself standing in Rosh Hashanah with simcha, with happiness, with clarity, with the recognition that you worked hard to get yourself the redemption that you bring to yourself through your actions, my friends. If we fail, God says, don't worry about it. You could start over again. That's his blessing to us. But you could turn this time right now into something much more. I'm going to end wishing you guys the ability to recognize and tap into the spiritual uniqueness of this time. Recognize when the world is burning, when things are breaking down, and we're at war. It comes from a lack of our ability to clarify who we are and who we want to be. We need to work on ourselves, become better human beings, bigger human beings. I'm concerned that in the next few months, we're going to be challenged in ways we can't begin to imagine. And your inner character is going to need to shine in ways you can't begin to imagine. So prepare for it, get ready for it. It's going to be an interesting, wild summer. Looking forward to only hearing nachat stories about how you guys overcame and did the best by growing and becoming bigger human beings. Have an amazing day. Have a great day. Please be safe.
Beautiful message, Rabbi.
Pleasure.